Episode 6, Into the Heart of Darkness. 1. The Gathering Storm. A low rumble of thunder trembled across Westvale's horizon, matching the knot of anxiety in Cassia Morell's chest. She stood outside the local police station with Detective Rowan Byrne, each of them on edge. Dr. Sebastian Harlan's abrupt disappearance had left them reeling. He'd been en route to a nearby university, transporting the newly recovered relics for safe storage, when he realized a suspicious vehicle was following him. Then his call cut out. No word since. Officer Hannah Gonzalez emerged from the station's front doors, her expression grim. "We've put out a BOLO on Dr. Harlan's car," she announced. "Road patrols are scanning highways, but there's no sign of him yet." Cassia tightened her fists at her sides, heart pounding. He was carrying the puzzle box, wasn't he? Byrne nodded, jaw set. Yes. The same artifact we pulled from the Crestfallen's driftwood chest. If the cult wanted it, they'd go after him. Gonzalez exhaled sharply, stepping closer so no one could overhear. "We also have a lead on a suspicious van leaving Westvale earlier today, headed north. Witnesses say a hooded person was driving. No plates. Another dead end." Rain began to spatter the pavement, each drop cold against Cassia's skin. She recalled the chanting robed figures in St. Felix Chapel's crypt and the gunfire at sea. Now one of her closest allies was likely in their clutches. "We have to find him," she said, voice shaking with urgency. Byrne placed a hand on her shoulder. "We will. I've got a friend in the state police analyzing cell tower pings from Harlan's phone. It's not official, but it might give us a direction." Officer Gonzalez nodded. "I'll do what I can, but resources are limited. If they've taken him someplace remote, we'll be scrambling in the dark." A clap of thunder echoed overhead, followed by a flash of lightning. The storm had arrived, and with it a sense of impending confrontation. Cassia swallowed hard. "Harlan, please hold on." 2. Secrets in the Storm. They hurried inside the station's small lobby, where they found a haggard Mr. Finch waiting on a bench. The antiques dealer fiddled nervously with his hat. "Detective Byrne, Miss Morell, I came as soon as I heard Dr. Harlan was missing," he stammered, rising to meet them. "Dreadful business." Cassia managed a faint smile of greeting. "Thank you, Mr. Finch. Is there something we should know?" Finch swallowed. "I've remembered more about my grandfather's notes. You see, he wrote about the Order of the Deep Tide, the group that once guarded Hawksmoor's relics. He suspected they had an old meeting site on the outskirts, near the abandoned shipyard. He never had proof, though." Finch's watery eyes flicked from Cassia to Byrne. "If they're the ones who took your friend, they might use that place." Byrne's gaze sharpened. "Is it close to the highway north of town?" Finch nodded. "It's possible. The old roads around there are rarely traveled. If the cult's trying to keep a low profile, that might be where they're hiding." Officer Gonzalez, overhearing, stepped closer. "We can check it out. We have no probable cause for a formal raid, but I can at least send a patrol car to recon." Byrne exhaled slowly. "That might scare them off, or worse. They might harm Harlan if they sense the police coming. We need a more subtle approach." Cassia set her jaw. "Then let's do it ourselves, quietly. They have Harlan. We can't lose any more time." A distant boom of thunder underscored her words. The storm battered the station's windows, wind-driven rain streaming down the glass. Finch trembled, but he handed Byrne a folded slip of paper. "Here's the address, or what's left of it. The place is half demolished. Be careful." They agreed on a plan. Byrne and Cassia, along with Finch if he dared, would do a covert recon of the area. Officer Gonzalez would keep searching for more leads and coordinate backup if they uncovered definitive evidence. Time was short, and the cult was cunning. Covert action felt like their only hope. 3. The Abandoned Shipyard. By late afternoon, the sky was a swollen mass of charcoal clouds, lightning sparking like distant artillery. A borrowed SUV bumped along a rutted dirt road, headed toward the coordinates Finch had provided. Cassia gripped the passenger door handle as the vehicle jolted over potholes. Byrne drove with tense concentration, peering through the windshield wipers. Finch hunched in the back seat, fidgeting with his coat sleeves. "Careful," Finch muttered. "There's a fork in the road up ahead. The left track leads to an abandoned warehouse near the old shipyard. That's probably the place." Byrne slowed, turning left. Fallen branches and wind-blown debris littered the road. After a few more minutes, the SUV emerged into a clearing. Rusted fences and collapsed corrugated metal sheds spread across a wide patch of muddy ground. Twisted hunks of machinery stood like skeletal remains, a testament to a time when Westvale had once thrived on shipbuilding. Now it was eerily silent, save for rain pelting the roof. Cassia scanned the surroundings with a creeping sense of dread. This place felt haunted by past industry, and perhaps by darker secrets. In the distance, she spotted a squat building with most of its roof intact. A faint glow flickered behind its boarded windows. "Look," she whispered, pointing. "Light inside." Byrne killed the engine. "We go on foot. Quietly." He turned to Finch. "You can stay here if you want. This could get dangerous." Finch's Adam's apple bobbed. "I'll come, but I'll hang back. I want to help." They exited the SUV, each one grimly aware of the possibility that armed cultists lurked nearby. Byrne led the way, moving in a crouch around rusted scrap heaps. The wind howled across the open yard, carrying the tang of wet metal. Cassia kept close, her heart pounding as they approached the half-collapsed structure. 4. Whispers in the dark. They reached a side door of the building, which sagged on its hinges. The flickering light within was dim, likely candles or lanterns. The storm's din masked their footsteps, but also dulled their senses. Byrne pressed his ear to the door, hearing low voices inside. Cassia's stomach tightened. She pictured Doctor. Harland bound or injured, the cult demanding secrets about the puzzle box's runes or the black pearls. Adrenaline spiked her pulse. Quietly, Byrne tested the door. It creaked open a few inches, revealing a corridor strewn with debris. He motioned for Cassia and Finch to wait, then slipped in, flashlight off, relying on a faint glow from deeper within. One step at a time, they moved forward. The building's interior smelled of mold, damp wood, and something acrid. Burning wax, perhaps. Peeling paint hung from corroded walls. A few random crates and broken beams cluttered the hallway. Then, from around a corner, they heard muffled shouting. "Think you can hide it from us? We know you recovered it at sea. Tell us how to open the chest, now." A second voice, Harlan's voice, weakly answered. I don't know. I already told you, we don't have the entire cargo." "Please." Cassia's blood ran cold. Harland was alive, but clearly in danger. She glanced at Byrne, who grimly nodded. Finch pressed his back to the wall, quaking. 5th confrontation. Byrne signaled for Cassia to circle around the corridor's far side, hoping to flank the cult members. He crept forward silently, training honed by years of police and PI work. Cassia's breath caught in her throat as she separated from him. Finch stayed behind, trembling near the entrance. Crouched behind a battered crate, Cassia peered into a large, open area, a makeshift chamber. 2 hooded cultists stood near a crude altar formed from broken pallets. Lanterns cast a dim glow, revealing Dr. Harland tied to a chair, bruised and shivering. Another cultist loomed over him, brandishing a small, curved knife. A wave serpent symbol was crudely painted on the wall behind them, the candlelight making it appear alive. "Last chance," the knife-wielding cultist hissed. "Where is the puzzle box now? Who else knows about the pearls?" Harlan's voice cracked. They're worthless. Just let me go." The cultist lifted the blade. Cassia's hands shook. Where was Byrne? If she leapt out alone, she'd be overpowered. She glanced to the other side of the chamber, just in time to see Byrne emerging behind a leaning steel beam. He raised a small handgun, likely taken from the SUV's glove compartment, and aimed. "All right, that's enough," Byrne called, stepping into the open. "Drop the knife. We're taking Dr. Harland and leaving." At once, the cultists whirled around, hoods obscuring their faces. The knife wielder hissed, "You dare intrude on our sacred ground!" Harland sagged in relief at seeing Byrne, but a second cultist stepped forward, a firearm glinting in the lantern light. Cassia's heart seized. Time slowed. She had to do something. Summoning courage, she leaped up from cover, brandishing a length of broken pipe she'd grabbed from the floor. "Let him go!" The cultist with the gun hesitated, torn between pointing at Byrne or Cassia. In that split second, Byrne lunged, tackling him. The gun fired, the bullet zinging overhead. Sparks flew as it ricocheted off metal. Chaos erupted. The third cultist lunged for Cassia, swinging a wooden baton. She sidestepped, barely, feeling the rush of air as it whooshed past her face. Byrne wrestled with his opponent, struggling to keep the gun aimed away. The knife wielder lunged to help, but Cassia jabbed with her pipe, forcing him back. The cultist hissed a curse and slashed at her with the knife, slicing the pipe from her grip. She stumbled, panic flooding her veins. Then, from the corner of her eye, Cassia saw Finch appear behind the knife wielder. With unexpected bravery, the antiques dealer swung a broken wooden plank, cracking it against the cultist's head. The robed figure stumbled, knife clattering to the floor. Cassia gasped at Finch's intervention. Meanwhile, Byrne managed to twist the gun aside. A second shot rang out, lodging in the ceiling. He drove his fist into the cultist's jaw, sending them reeling. Breathing heavily, he wrenched the gun away. "Cassia!" Byrne shouted, turning to see if she was all right. She nodded quickly. Finch stood shaking, his improvised plank broken in half. The cultists were dazed, but one was still conscious, struggling to stand. Byrne aimed his gun, voice hard. "Stay down!" 6. A narrow escape. Cassia ran to Dr. Harland, untying his wrists and ankles. The older man's face was bruised, his eyes frantic. "Thank you," he croaked, voice barely audible. "They forced me off the road, threatened me, asked about the pearls, the puzzle box." "We've got you," Cassia murmured, tears of relief threatening to spill. Finch hovered beside her, looking startled by his own bravery. Byrne kept his weapon trained on the groaning cultists. Another flash of lightning illuminated the chamber, thunder shaking the roof overhead. "Cassia, get Harland out of here. I'll call Officer Gonzalez." But as they turned to go, footsteps pounded from further down the corridor. More cultists? Cassia's stomach twisted. "We can't fend off an entire group." She noticed an exit on the far side, a metal door flapping in the wind. "We'll have to retreat that way." Byrne glanced at the battered phone in his jacket. No signal in this steel and concrete building. "We have to move. Fast. Finch, help me watch them." Finch swallowed and nodded, collecting the fallen cultist's baton. The robed figures on the floor were stirring, but in no shape to fight. Yet the new footsteps were getting louder. Without waiting for them to appear, Cassia and Byrne helped Harland to his feet and hurried toward the far exit, Finch trailing behind. The corridor beyond was cluttered with collapsed beams and puddles of rainwater leaking through holes in the roof. In a flash of lightning through a broken window, Cassia saw silhouettes approaching from outside, reinforcements, perhaps 5 or 6 robed figures. She stifled a scream, turning to Byrne in desperation. "Another way out!" Harland gasped, pointing to a side hall. "I saw a loading bay door when they brought me in." They rushed that way, thunder booming overhead. Behind them, urgent voices echoed. "They're escaping." "Seal the exits." The cult was mobilizing. The corridor ended in a large loading bay with a rusted overhead door. Rain dripped through wide holes in the ceiling, forming puddles on the cracked concrete floor. "Locked," Byrne muttered, jiggling the door's handle. He scanned the walls, noticing a fuse box. Help me open it. Maybe we can override the mechanism. Cassia hurried to the fuse box, prying it open with a crowbar she found lying around. Inside, corroded switches and wiring glimmered in the flickering light. She toggled one switch, sparks dancing. The overhead door groaned but didn't budge. She tried another, then a third. Suddenly, with an ear-splitting squeal, the door began to rise a few inches. Thunder crashed. The door jammed, stuck halfway open. It left just enough space for them to crawl under. Finch and Harland went first, squirming through into the wet evening. Bayern followed, but Cassia froze for a split second, looking back. Did we truly leave the cult behind? Heavy footsteps thundered around the corner. She dropped to her belly, rolling under the door just as a robed figure burst into the loading bay. A muffled shout of rage echoed behind her. Then she was outside, rain drenching her as she scrambled to her feet. Byrne seized her arm, pulling her away. Finch and Harland were already running toward the SUV in the distance. They sprinted across the muddy lot, lightning illuminating twisted cranes and abandoned hulls like bleached whale bones. A dark shape emerged from behind a shipping container, a cultist raising a firearm. Byrne threw himself at Cassia, knocking her sideways. The gun fired, bullets whizzing overhead. Finch yelped, dropping behind an old forklift. Harlan stumbled but kept moving. Byrne returned fire, forcing the cultist to dive for cover. Cassia's heart hammered. This is insane. They wove between wreckage until finally reaching the SUV. Finch yanked open the back door, and Harlan collapsed onto the seat. Cassia scrambled into the front passenger side, drenched and shaking. Byrne clambered behind the wheel, gunning the engine. A bullet cracked the rear window as they lurched forward in a spray of mud. The SUV fishtailed, but Byrne gritted his teeth and pressed the accelerator. Headlights sliced through the rain, revealing half a dozen robed shapes in the distance. Another muzzle flash lit the gloom, striking the side panel with a dull clang. Then, with a surge, the SUV burst free of the lot onto the uneven dirt road, leaving the cult behind. 7. Urgent aftermath. They drove in tense silence for several minutes, hearts pounding. Cassia glanced over her shoulder, half expecting to see headlights of a pursuing vehicle, but the muddy road behind them was empty. The storm's fury masked any trailing threats. At last, Byrne slowed, letting out a long breath. Harlan moaned from the back seat, clutching his bruised ribs. Finch, face ashen, tried to offer words of comfort. "We have to get him medical attention," Cassia said, twisting in her seat to check Harlan's injuries. His wrists were raw and bleeding from rope burns, and his face bore dark bruises. "He needs a doctor." Byrne nodded, turning onto a more travelled road that would lead back to Westvale. The police station first, then the clinic. Officer Gonzalez should have backup on standby after that gunfight. We need to coordinate. The cult is more brazen than ever. Rain hammered the SUV's roof, thunder still rolling in the distance. Finch murmured shaky apologies for not doing more, but Cassia placed a hand on his arm. "You saved my life back there," she said softly, recalling the moment he struck the knife-wielding cultist. He managed a wan, grateful smile. Dr. Harland stirred. They kept asking about the puzzle box. They threatened to kill me unless I revealed the secret to open it, or gave them the black pearls. "We have the box, and the puzzle's partial solution," Byrne reassured him, though his voice betrayed his own doubts. "But we still need answers about those pearls, and how dangerous they really are." Harland closed his eyes, exhaustion overwhelming him. The SUV rumbled through the storm, each occupant battling their own swirling thoughts about the final confrontation they all knew was coming. 8. Storm-tossed loyalties. They arrived at the Westvale police station to find Officer Gonzalez waiting anxiously under the overhang. The battered SUV skidded to a halt, and she rushed out to meet them. "Good God," she said, eyes widening at Dr. Harlan's condition. She helped him inside, where a medic on standby began examining his bruises. "Are you all right?" He winced, nodding weakly. "I'll live." Thanks. Byrne quickly recounted the rescue mission and the firefight with the cult. Gonzalez listened, her face growing steadily paler. This is escalating fast. I've already got calls from the state police about the shootout at the old shipyard. Locals reported gunshots and strange lights. They'll want statements. Cassia clutched her arms, shivering in damp clothes. What about the cult? If they have a hideout there, they'll clear out, Gonzalez said flatly. By the time we get a warrant and arrive with backup, they'll be gone. She guided them into a small interrogation room, offering coffee and blankets. We'll do what we can, but we're short-staffed. The state might get involved now that we have multiple reports of armed conflict, but it could be days before specialized teams mobilize. Finch sank into a chair, eyes distant. They're unstoppable. This group has been around for generations, always lurking in shadows, passing down some vow to protect that cargo. How do we fight something so entrenched? Byrne pressed a towel against his temple, wiping blood from a grazed bullet that must have nicked him earlier. We keep shining light on them. We have evidence of their crimes. Harlan's testimony, the bullet holes in my SUV, the photos we took at sea. We still have the puzzle box, though Harlan was in the process of storing it. The cult hasn't gotten it back. Cassia's voice trembled with residual adrenaline. But if the police can't move fast enough, they might vanish again, or come after us even harder. We need a more decisive move, something that ends their threat. Officer Gonzalez rubbed her temples in frustration. I don't want more violence, but you're right. We're dealing with fanaticism. They'll keep attacking until we either destroy their faith in that cargo or find some way to lock them all up. And I don't see mass arrests happening overnight. 9. Harlan's vow. After the medic finished bandaging Harlan's wrists and checking him for a concussion, he asked to see Cassia and Byrne privately. They huddled in a corner of the station's break room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. I overheard something, Harlan said quietly, gingerly rubbing his throat. One of the cultists mentioned that their high tide, their leader, I think, planned to enact a final ritual if we refused to turn over the puzzle box. Something about submerging the pearls in the chamber of tides so no one could ever recover them. Cassia furrowed her brow. Another cryptic reference. The chamber of tides could be a place along the coast or somewhere inside the cliff networks. Harlan shrugged, wincing. They talked about it like a cataclysmic solution, destroy or hide the pearls forever, so no one can break the vow. They're dead serious about it. Byrne glanced at Cassia. Could it be connected to St. Felix Chapel again, or another hidden chamber near the sea? The catacombs we saw weren't exactly tide chambers, but there might be deeper levels. Harlan's gaze flicked between them. We have to stop them. If the pearls really are locked away with the cargo, or if they plan to hide or destroy them, we lose the chance to prove the cult's wrongdoing. We might never know if the cargo is truly dangerous or just a superstitious relic. Cassia felt a surge of determination. Then we find them before they do that final ritual. We follow every clue we have left, the puzzle box, the partial map from the casket, the old diaries. We figure out where this chamber of tides is. Harlan nodded, though he looked exhausted. Count me in. I won't let them scare me away. Byrne clasped the older man's shoulder gently, respect in his eyes. We'll end this, together. 10th puzzle box revisited. Early the next morning, Harlan insisted he was well enough to continue their work. They gathered in a secure back room of the police station. Officer Gonzalez, Cassia, Byrne, Harlan, and Finch. The battered puzzle box sat on a table next to the iron casket's documents and the fragments of old diaries and maps they'd collected. The storm's wind still lashed against the building's walls, rattling the windows. Cassia opened her laptop, where she digitized photos of the puzzle box and all runic symbols. We opened this box once and found that cryptic vow about black pearls. But maybe there's more compartments. Or maybe the runes can guide us to the chamber of tides. Harland carefully turned the puzzle box over. I noticed small channels or grooves we didn't fully explore. Could be a hidden panel. We were in a rush last time. He glanced at Belmont's locksmithing tools, which they'd requested be brought to the station for safekeeping. Working methodically, Harland and Byrne used micro-tools to probe the box's edges. Finch hovered, occasionally pointing out runic motifs he recognized from family lore. Time slipped by in tense concentration. Then Cassia spotted an odd indentation at one corner, shaped like the puzzle box's metallic seal they'd discovered. She rummaged through the envelope to retrieve the disc-like seal. "Look, this might fit here." She pressed the seal into the indentation. At first, nothing happened. Then Harland rotated it a quarter turn. With a faint click, part of the puzzle box's surface slid sideways, revealing a tiny hidden drawer. Officer Gonzalez leaned in, eyebrows rising. Inside the drawer lay a slender piece of parchment, protected by a thin layer of waxy coating. Harland gently lifted it out, smoothing it under the overhead lamp. Byrne inhaled sharply as they read the archaic lines. "Where the tide floods stone in the old chapel's secret tomb, let the serpent's vow be sealed. Beneath the watchful saint, the watery gate awaits the cargo's final keep." Cassia's eyes widened. Another reference to a hidden area beneath a chapel, or watchful saint. Could this be St. Felix Chapel again? Maybe deeper than the crypt we visited? Finch squinted. "I recall rumors that St. Felix was built on older catacombs. Some say there's a sealed chamber that floods during high tide. If the cult can access that watery gate, they might hide or destroy the pearls there." Harlan nodded, voice hushed. "That must be the Chamber of Tides. The question is, how do we find it?" Byrne's eyes flashed with resolve. "We go back. We missed something last time. A deeper catacomb or a sealed door. The cult obviously knows about it. If they plan a final ritual, that's likely where they'll gather." Officer Gonzalez sucked in a breath. "If that's where they're heading, we could stage a raid. But we have limited manpower. I have maybe 4 officers who could respond quickly, plus me. The state troopers might not arrive in time." Cassia glanced at the loaded evidence table. "We can't wait days. They might do it tonight, or whenever the next high tide aligns with their ritual. We have to stop them." 11th, a perilous plan. They hammered out a plan. Cassia, Byrne, Harland, and Finch would return to St. Felix Chapel, accompanied by Gonzalez and a small group of officers. They'd approach stealthily, searching for a hidden entrance beneath the crypt. If the cult was there, they'd attempt to corner them and recover any of Hawksmoor's cargo they might be ready to submerge. Byrne's phone buzzed, a message from the state police contact. They'd gotten wind of the fiasco at the old shipyard, but were tied up with other emergencies. "They can't send help for at least another day," Byrne relayed, frustration evident. Gonzalez grimaced. "Then we're on our own tonight. Let's do it." The day was spent gathering supplies, flashlights, ropes, waterproof cameras, and a few protective vests. Harland insisted on bringing a small diving tank and mask, just in case they encountered submerged passages. Cassia packed the puzzle box, the iron casket's documents, and extra copies of the runic translations, tools that might unlock hidden mechanisms if encountered. All the while the storm raged on, though forecasts predicted it might ease by evening. The wind howled around West Vale's rooftops as though nature itself was aware of the impending confrontation. Cassia tried to quell the fluttering panic in her stomach. The memory of robed figures chanting in the crypt haunted her. But this time they'd have police support and more knowledge of the chapel's secrets. 12th. Return to St. Felix. Night descended once more, heavy with clouds. Lightning flickered in the distance, the storm's fury gradually diminishing. 2 police cruisers and the borrowed SUV convoyed up the coastal road. Byrne led in the SUV, with Cassia riding shotgun. Harland and Finch huddled in the back. Officer Gonzalez followed in a cruiser, 2 more officers behind her in another. They wanted to avoid too large a show of force that could scare the cult into fleeing. This had to be precise. St. Felix Chapel loomed on the cliffs, half-ruined walls stark against the dark sky. The wind battered the ancient stones, and waves crashed far below. The group parked well down the road, walking the final distance. Thunder rumbled, though the rain had tapered to a mist. Byron motioned for silence as they entered the chapel's weed-choked courtyard. The iron gate still stood open from their previous visit, no sign of robed sentinels in the gloom. Flicking off their flashlights, they crept inside, boots crunching on broken glass and debris. Memories flooded Cassia, the crypt below, the chanting voices, the faint candlelight. Anxiety gnawed at her, but she pressed on. In the main hall, the collapsed roof let in moonlight, illuminating shattered pews. Officer Gonzalez silently directed her 2 officers to guard the entrance. Then she and the others advanced toward the altar where they'd discovered the stairs last time. Finch's whisper broke the hush. "Over there," the crypt entrance behind the altar. They found the same dark opening descending into the earth. No immediate sign of cult presence. Cassia shuddered, recalling how the group of robed figures had once confronted them. She flicked her flashlight on. "Let's go." 13. Beneath the stones. The narrow stairs led them deeper than before, moisture clinging to the walls. Water dripped from the stone ceiling. The air smelled of damp rock and something older, more pungent. Everyone moved in single file. Byron in front, Cassia just behind, then Harland and Finch, with Gonzalez and 1 officer bringing up the rear. At the bottom, they found the same corridor of arched niches and tomb recesses. But something was different now. Candles flickered along the walls, freshly lit, a sign the cult was indeed present. They advanced cautiously. The corridor forked. The left path led to the crypt chamber they'd seen before, but no chanting greeted them now. The right branch, previously overlooked, sloped downward. Faint echoes of water lapping reached their ears. Byron gestured for silence and took the right passage. The rough stone corridor twisted, the ceiling lowering until they had to stoop. The dripping intensified. Soon they reached an old wooden door with rusted hinges, water seeping from beneath it. "This might be the Chamber of Tides," Harland whispered, voice trembling with anticipation. Byron tried the latch, locked. Officer Gonzalez's 2nd officer produced a small crowbar. With minimal noise, they pried at the swollen wood, and the door gave way with a spongy crack. A rush of cold, briny air greeted them. Beyond the threshold lay a natural cavern partially worked into stone walls. In the center, a wide pool shimmered in the flashlight beams, black water gently rippling. Faint streams from the sea must flow in here at high tide. On the far side of the pool, a rocky ledge held a crude altar draped with dripping seaweed and lit by flickering torches. Thunder rumbled overhead, though distant now. Cassia's eyes locked on that altar. Dark shapes rested upon it, likely crates or chests reminiscent of the one they'd found underwater. And scrawled all around on the cavern walls was the wave serpent crest. A hush fell. Finch gulped audibly. This must be where they want to submerge the cargo, or maybe they already have. 14th Final Showdown. Before they could move, a commanding voice echoed from the darkness. "So, you've come at last." A robed figure emerged from behind the altar, torchlight revealing a tall form, face concealed by a deep hood. More figures stepped from the shadows, 6 at least, blocking the perimeter of the cavern. Each wore the wave serpent symbol on their robes. 1 or 2 carried knives, another had a shotgun. Officer Gonzalez raised her sidearm. "Westvale Police, drop your weapons." The tall figure laughed, a hollow sound in the echoing chamber. "Fools! You cannot stop the vow of the deep. Tonight, the pearls return to the tide, sealed forever. No mortal shall break the curse." At that, more robed cultists emerged from side passages. Byrne counted at least 8. They were outnumbered. The police officers aimed their guns, tense standoff crackling in the air. Harland murmured to Cassia, voice taut, "This is it. The final ritual. That crate on the altar might hold the black pearls. We have to get them." Byrne, stepping forward, called out, "We've documented your crimes. Murder, kidnapping, attempted homicide. It's over. Surrender or face the consequences." The tall cult leader lowered their hood, revealing a stern-faced woman with streaked grey hair and piercing eyes. "The vow stands above earthly laws. The wave devours all who defy it, even you." She lifted a small corroded chest from the altar, similar to the one Cassia had recovered at sea, but larger. The wave serpent crest etched across its surface glimmered in the torchlight. The black pearls remained sealed within. Let them sleep in the depths. She began to step toward the dark pool, clearly intent on submerging the chest. Cassia's mind raced. If that chest truly held the pearls, once dropped into the tidal pit, they might be lost forever. They might also be part of critical evidence to break the cult's stranglehold. She exchanged a look with Byrne, who nodded grimly. Officer Gonzalez repeated her command. "Put it down. Now." But the robed guards advanced, weapons ready, a twitch away from violence. 15. The Tide of Fate. Lightning flashed beyond the cavern ceiling, thunder shaking the chapel's foundations. The tall leader raised the chest over the pool. "We release the pearls into the sea. If you seek them, you seek death." Shots rang out. Officer Gonzalez's men firing warning rounds at the cultists approaching with knives. One robed figure dropped, wounded. Another fired back, a bullet whistling past Cassia's ear. Chaos erupted. Harland and Finch dove for cover behind a boulder. Byrne and Gonzalez returned fire with measured precision, aiming to disarm. Meanwhile, the leader stood at the pool's edge, seemingly calm amid the melee. Water lapped at her ankles. She clutched the chest tightly, chanting in a low voice. Cassia saw her about to plunge it into the water. "Number." Cassia dashed forward, skirting the frantic scuffle. She ducked as a shotgun blast echoed, pellets ricocheting off stone. The leader raised an arm to hurl the chest deeper into the pool. Acting on sheer instinct, Cassia lunged. She collided with the leader, both women toppling sideways. The chest slipped from the cult leader's grasp, splashing into the shallows with a loud clunk. "That belongs in a museum," Cassia couldn't help blurting, adrenaline fueling her. But the leader snarled, grappling her, attempting to drive her face first into the water. The tide lapped around Cassia's shoulders, freezing cold. She coughed, gasping for breath. The leader pinned Cassia with surprising strength, hissing, "You know not the doom you unleash. The pearls must remain sealed." Cassia squirmed, water splashing as she fought to keep from being submerged completely. Then footsteps pounded behind them. Byrne appeared, slamming the butt of his gun into the leader's shoulder. She reeled, losing her grip on Cassia. The detective hauled Cassia out of the water, then pointed his weapon at the cult leader. "Enough!" Byrne barked, breath ragged. Another bullet whizzed overhead, a last desperate shot from one of the cultists. But a return round from Officer Gonzalez's vantage hit that gunman's arm, disarming him. Panting, the cult leader froze, glaring at Byrne with hatred. A hush settled as the final shots died away. Most robed figures lay injured or pinned by officers, moaning. The acrid smell of gunpowder mingled with brine. Water dripped from Cassia's hair and clothes, and the chest sat half-submerged a few feet away. 16. The Black Pearls. Shaking off the dizzying adrenaline, Cassia waded deeper to retrieve the chest from the shallow pool. Her limbs felt numb from cold and shock, but she managed to drag the corroded box onto the rocky ledge. Byrne hovered protectively, while Harland rushed over with Finch, flashlight in hand. Officer Gonzalez secured plastic cuffs on the cult leader, who spat in defiance but was clearly beaten. The robed members, still capable of fleeing, had retreated or been subdued. Cassia's hands trembled. The box's latch was already damaged from the scuffle. She pried it open, revealing a sodden cloth bundle. Harland carefully unwrapped it. Inside lay half a dozen glossy spheres, each about the size of a marble, glistening with an eerie black sheen. "Black pearls!" Harlan breathed, shining the flashlight. They shimmered with subtle iridescent undertones of green and purple. Rainbows danced across their surfaces. Despite centuries under the waves, they seemed perfectly preserved, exuding an otherworldly glow in the torchlight. Finch peered over their shoulders, awe mixing with fear. So this is the cargo Hawksmoor smuggled, the so-called cursed pearls. Officer Gonzalez stepped closer, gazing at them as though they might bite. What makes them so dangerous? Harlan shook his head slowly. We might never know the truth behind the superstition. Are they radioactive or tied to some ancient legend of ill fortune? Perhaps it's just the fervor of a cult that kills to protect them, but they're real, and presumably extremely rare. The leader, bound and kneeling, spat. You fools! You meddle with powers beyond your ken. We have saved the world from these pearls for centuries. Now you doom us all. Burns' lip curled. No more killing. No more secrets. We'll turn them over to experts. Let the truth come out. Lightning illuminated the cavern, revealing the black pearls shining in Cassia's palm. She felt an odd tingle across her skin, maybe just the adrenaline, but a whisper of doubt remained. Were they truly cursed? 17. A storm-worn dawn. The rest of the night became a blur of arrests, emergency calls, and triage for the wounded. By dawn, additional police support had arrived. The cult members who'd fled melted into the surrounding countryside, but the leader and several key followers were in custody. The confiscated black pearls, plus the relic chests and puzzle box, were all secured as evidence. Cassia and Byrne emerged from St. Felix Chapel's cliffside entrance, exhausted but relieved. Harland, Finch, and Officer Gonzalez followed, each showing signs of the night's ordeal. Bruises, cuts, drenched clothes. But they'd done it. The vow of the deep tide was broken, or at least weakened beyond immediate threat. Sunrise scattered golden light over the churning ocean. The storm clouds had dissipated, leaving the air crisp with the scent of salt. Cassia paused on the cliff's edge, gazing out at the sea. She felt a pang of sadness for Westvale's battered old legends, yet also a glimmer of hope that maybe, with the cult dismantled, the town could breathe again. Byrne stepped beside her, silent for a long moment. Finally, he spoke softly. We should get those pearls tested by an expert. Confirm if they're just pearls or something more. She nodded. Yeah, and the cargo debris underwater should be mapped by marine archaeologists. The world deserves to know the real history behind the crestfallen. He slipped an arm around her shoulders, warmth against the chill wind. You did good, Cassia. We all did. A tear slid down her cheek, mingling with the salt spray. The nightmares, the near-death scrapes, the murders, they weighed heavily on her, but for the first time she felt they had triumphed, at least for now. 18. Unfinished business. They returned to Westvale's harbour around midday. News of the dramatic raid at St. Felix Chapel had spread quickly. Locals whispered about a cult bust, though details remained vague. The outside world was about to learn more as the county sheriff and state investigators converged on the small town. Officer Gonzalez oversaw the evidence transfer, carefully logging the black pearls, puzzle box, and other seized relics. Finch joined her at the station, quietly giving statements about his family's involvement with the key and the casket. He seemed both relieved and haunted, as though a long family curse had finally ended. Meanwhile, Dr. Harland, battered but stable, began drafting a report on the maritime significance of the Crestfallen's wreck. He planned to contact university colleagues to organize a proper archaeological expedition to recover any remaining cargo. Now that the cult's immediate threat was removed, a legitimate historical salvage might be possible. Cassia helped him sort notes, feeling torn between excitement at unveiling the real story of Captain Hawksmoor and sorrow over the lives lost in the cult's fanaticism. It's a complicated legacy, she murmured, scanning the centuries-old script. Hawksmoor must have known these pearls carried a deadly reputation. Harlan nodded, gingerly touching his bruised jaw. He might have tried to smuggle them for wealth or under orders from some unscrupulous patron. We may never know the full motive, but we can ensure that knowledge, the truth, isn't hidden away by superstition. 19. The Detective's Farewell. A few days later, as Westvale slowly returned to an uneasy normal, Detective Rowan Byrne prepared to leave. His original assignment, to recover Devon Mowbray's stolen locket, felt almost trivial in light of everything that had transpired. Yet, ironically, that stolen locket was part of the same mosaic of Hawksmoor artifacts. It, too, had been recovered in a warehouse tied to the cult. Byrne planned to deliver it personally. Standing by his car at Mrs. Sweeney's boarding house, he shook the landlady's hand. She dabbed her eyes, lamenting that trouble so often found its way to Westvale. "Thank you for all you did," she said. "We can't forget poor Avery Collins, but maybe now we'll have peace." Byrne offered a small, sad smile. "I hope so." Cassia appeared, having come to see him off. "So you're heading out?" she asked softly. He nodded, loading a duffel into the trunk. "I have to. There's paperwork, debriefings, delivering the locket to my client, but I'll be back for the official salvage operation. Harland wants me to provide security. He's worried about any remaining cult stragglers." Cassia's throat tightened. She realized she'd grown close to the detective, their bond forged through terror and shared purpose. "Take care of yourself," she whispered, stepping forward. Byrne gazed at her with warmth. "You too. You're going to be busy unveiling a centuries-old maritime mystery to the world." They hesitated, then embraced briefly, the aftershocks of their ordeal still humming beneath the surface. Pulling back, Byrne brushed a stray curl from Cassia's face. "Stay safe, Cassia. If you ever need me, I'll call," she finished, managing a small, genuine smile. "And Rowan, thank you." With that, he slid into his car. The engine roared to life. Cassia waved, heart heavy yet hopeful, as he drove down the fog-bound street and disappeared around a bend. 20. Epilogue. Shadows. Westvale breathed again, or as close to it as the misty town ever came. The cult's leadership was dismantled, many members arrested and facing charges. Whether the Order of the Deep Tide might resurface in some new guise remained an open question. Such dark beliefs rarely vanished overnight, but at least the immediate danger had passed. In the weeks that followed, Cassia aided Dr. Harland and a small research team in mapping the crestfallen wreck more thoroughly. They carefully catalogued artifacts, cannon fragments, timbers, corroded personal items. The black pearls, under close scientific scrutiny, proved to be of an exceptionally rare variety, though no trace of toxins or radioactivity was found. The curse appeared to be purely legendary, though stories of ill luck continued to swirl. Officer Gonzalez coordinated ongoing patrols around St. Felix Chapel, determined to ensure no new cult gatherings occurred. Mr. Finch quietly rebuilt his antiques business, the old family guilt lifted. Mrs. Sweeney proudly displayed newspaper clippings about the historic revelations in her boarding house foyer. As for Cassia, she compiled her research into a formal paper, hoping to share the truth about Captain Hawksmoor's final voyage. Standing on the docks one breezy morning, she gazed over the water, recalling the swirl of events that had brought her here. A stolen key, a hidden crypt, a clandestine cult, and the black pearls that might be cursed, or might simply be a reflection of humanity's own capacity for fear and greed. She closed her eyes, letting the sea wind brush her face. We survived, she thought, heart swelling with gratitude. And maybe we made this town a little brighter. Someday, the full story would be told, free from the veil of superstition. Until then, Westvale remained half-shrouded in fog, retaining its mysteries and its quiet resilience. What's next? Our heroes have confronted the cult, rescued Dr. Harland, and secured the fabled Black Pearls. Yet, as we approach our final episode, one question remains. Will the dark undercurrents of Hawksmoor's legend truly be laid to rest, or does a final twist await? Stay tuned for Episode 7, where the full resolution unfolds, surprising revelations come to light, and we learn whether Westvale's darkest chapter is truly over, or if an even more startling secret awaits discovery.